It's the viewer's house. You want to guard the city, that's a place to stay. Standing here, you can see lots of things that we already saw and talked about. There's of course the Temple Mount right there with the Al-Aqsa Mosque at the edge. You can see the staircase coming down from the wall. This is the Herodian staircase. We will be there later in the tour and talk all about. But this is the way up to the house of the Lord from the city. You can see the Kidron Valley, how it protected the city. Although the road is higher, still there's a way down before you go up here. You can look to the west. You see Mount Zion right there. Two churches on Mount Zion. The top one is the Dromation. You see the pointed dome. The internal sleep of Mary that we mentioned earlier. Up there, Catholic Church. And on the slopes, another church. See it? This is a modern church, Peter in Galicanti. Peter and the cock that cried. They deny Jesus. Hopefully after the tour here at the City of David, we will visit Mount Zion as well. Again, very hard to see even when we stand right here, but between Mount Zion and us, there is a valley. Okay? I promise you that you will find out eventually that there was a valley there. Again, like John said, it was basically covered almost completely, but it was a valley. There was a valley there. And that was the end of Jerusalem to the west in the times of David and Solomon. Only later it expands to Mount Zion and to the western hills, north from it, and grows and shrinks and grows again. But there is the valley right here. You know, both of them. And over there is the third valley, the Hinnom Valley, that goes further west and north on the other side. By the way, these three valleys are the base of Jerusalem. If you want, it looks like that if we are in the south. And Kidron Valley, Hinnom Valley, and the Central Valley. The Teropeon Valley, the Cheesemaker Valley, or the Valley. It's not even here, but it has three names. And this is very interestingly also one of the Hebrew letters, the 22 Hebrew letters, called Shin, which makes the first name of God. So the first letter of one of the names of God, Shaddai. So if you want, God was here even before anything, just creating this whole area. Now, inside the walls of the old city, we have four quarters. A Jewish quarter, which you can see the buildings of it right there. Behind it we have an Armenian quarter. The Armenians are Christians, a very special group, so they have their own area, they were here for centuries. Northwest is the Christian quarter, and northeast is the Muslims quarter, also the biggest, because they were here the longest. So that's inside the walls. We'll do that area later in the tour. And what else? Any questions? Kidron Valley, Hinnom Valley, and the Central Valley, or the Valley, or the Teropeon Cheesemakers Valley. Second Temple time, probably people were making cheese there. It nicknamed the Cheesemakers Valley. Right. Next, please look this way. This is an Arab village outside of Jerusalem. Okay? Until modern Jerusalem just built itself and covered it, and now it's part of the city. It's called Silwan, Arab village. On the slopes, if you want, on the end of Mount of Olives, and the hills that go towards the south and the east, people built this village in a very nice location, close to the city, on the slopes of the hill, like the Arabs in the old times used to do. Only little problem, standing from here you can see a few holes in the mountain under the houses, right there and further down there. These are tombs from the first temple time, and even earlier, which means the people built the houses in a cemetery. Okay. Again, this area, east side, Arab area, all the people, most of them are Arabs, most of them are Muslims, of course. A few problems here between the locals and the Israeli police. They don't like lots of what the Jews do in this area. And here and there are some riots. And problems, it's not such a quiet village. Well, it's not a village anymore, it's part of the city. But we are in a very problematic area in the world. Connection between Islam, Judaism and Christianity, all in the same area. Very problematic, and we do have it still here and there. It's part of human needs. In the morning, John pointed out this wall. We mentioned it and talked a little bit about it. Now let's see. And you can see that, first of all, it's a man-made wall. So obviously not part of a mountain. But it kind of like created a mountain. It's a massive, very thick, very strong wall that support, as I said earlier, what was built above, up there, the huge big building, the palace probably. It had a tower. You see the corner over there. The corner of a big tower. There's another one on the other side. And it's a massive, massive structure in order to guard what is above and to basically be the basis of what's right there. Again, there's a debate. If King David himself built it to build his palace, or he used a wall that was already here, probably that's the truth, and the ruins of the palace that he basically destroyed to build his own palace up there as well. Most people believe that this massive wall was built here before David's time. It was more than 3,000 years ago, way more. And we know, and we'll see that later, that the Canaanites that lived here knew how to build, and they were very good at it. So, this is the supported wall of whatever it is that was up there. And we also know, because we dug here and found this, not me personally, you know, the archaeologist, the city expanded. More and more people came to Jerusalem. It was the capital. Time of David, time of Solomon, and even later, more and more people are coming. It takes time before you decide to take Mount Zion and make it part of the city. Meanwhile, people didn't have a lot of place to live. Maybe it was too crowded. And so we found houses built into this massive wall. Very nice houses, pretty big. Again, we are in the high level of the mount, of the city. Rich people, obviously people that relate to the palace above. Easy to get there. And it was very interesting to see that they needed to build into the ancient wall. Already there, it's an ancient wall. But the most amazing finding here, in one of the houses that were dug here, they found a treasure. And unfortunately, the treasure is not gold and diamonds and stuff like that. The treasure was bullahs. Bullahs are pieces of clay that with symbols and marks or names on them, that when you write an official letter, you need to seal it. This is how you do it. It's like a stamp. And a lot of times it carried the name of the guy that was in charge of something that gives the stamp. And we found a treasure of many bullahs like that right here, which proves that the people who lived here were closer to the palace, people that worked with the palace, ministers or writers of any sort. And among the bullahs, one of them was even more amazing because it had a name on it, still had a name on it, in Hebrew letters that we can still read today. And the name is a name that we know from the Bible, from Jeremiah, same Jeremiah with the pit. He writes about the court, the king's court, and about the people there, and he doesn't like them so much, but he mentions a few of them by name. One of them was Gemariyahu ben Shaphan, Gemariyahu, son of Shaphan. And we found the bullah with the name. It's a direct connection to the biblical story, right here. And it's really something different than the Canaanites that were before them, and something different than the other groups of people that came later. This is very typical to that period of time, Iron Age, if you ask the archaeologists. The first temple time, if you ask the Bible. And it's hard to understand how it looked like from what you have here, but put it in your mind because we will see houses like that in other sites, and you can do the connections.
That reminds me, just most of you perhaps have this in your head already, but just to try to remember basic timelines. I can give you one in your stuff, but when you're thinking Abraham, we're thinking 2000, little over BC, okay? And we call that, well, actually, Middle Bronze to Late Bronze. So you've got your Middle Bronze really is 2000 to 1500, Late Bronze would be 1500 to 1200, then you've got Iron Age from 1200 on down, really all down to the Persian period. But what you have in terms of chronology, because we're going to see a lot of chronology. So when we're talking David, we're talking 1000 BC. Okay, that's where you're going to be at Gezer, Lord willing, at least by the end of next week, maybe. We're in 800 BC now, and he's going through the 800 down to 1000 BC. That's what he wants to uncover, the 1000 BC city plan. So 800 BC, 200 years later, you've got, well, let's see, another 100 years, the northern kingdom's going to be destroyed, but you've got Ahaz. Ahab is a little earlier than that. So 1000 BC is David. 1500 BC, actually that's before Moses, depends on your day of the Exodus, but we'll say Moses, maybe 1300 BC. So later date of the Exodus. David, then 1000, Moses earlier, then Abraham is back, and if Moses is 1300, Abraham's probably 1800, but so 1800 to 2000 for Abraham. We will see Abraham up at Dan. We'll see a gate from his time period. We'll see that same architecture at Ashkelon. So you've got some really early stuff. We'll see then the Old Testament. We're going to be talking about destruction, Assyrian destruction. So the Northern Kingdom 722, Southern Kingdom 605 to 586. We've got 3 different destructions there by Babylon. So 500, 600, 600 is Jeremiah. Ezekiel, Daniel, 500 they're coming back and rebuilding. So 538 is the decree of Cyrus, 536 foundation of the second temple. So thinking chronology, so 1800 to 2000 you've got Abraham, then you've got Moses 13 to 100 or so, depending on your date. You've got David at 1000, you've got Daniel, Jeremiah, Ezekiel 600 to 550. You've got Ezra and Nehemiah a bit later. Zerubbabel would be 530. Ezra and Nehemiah would be 450. So just trying to think Old Testament chronology. Then you've got, of course, first century is all Jesus. That's all about the same. But then later we're moving on. We're going to hit some of the various time periods of the Crusaders and the like the Mamelukes and etc. So just trying to keep some of that a little bit straight because it's easy to get it all confused and forget what happens when.